Welcome back to Arise Primetime. I'm Constance Ikoku. Well, to make sense of all you've heard on the program so far, I'm joined in the studio by Dr. Omale Adoyi. He is an international affairs expert, and he'll be with me for the rest of the show. Thank you, Dr. Omale, for joining us.
Yeah, good evening.
So you have been listening to all that our guests have said. What do you make of it? It's such a tragic event in history.
Yeah, you know, the genocide in Rwanda is one of the unfortunate incidents that have betrayed the African continent in the last couple of years. Over 1.1 million Tutsis were murdered in cold blood, and that type of genocide has never been seen on the African continent. And of course, what worried so many people was the nonchalance of the powers, the international community, that did not take a proactive action to stop the genocide, as it were. And it's unfortunate that it happened. And but what pleases me is the way Rwanda has been able to pick up after the genocide, the way they've been able to develop their economy, the way they've been able to reconcile themselves, the way they've been able to quickly put behind them all the events that led to the genocide. And it's a very good case study for other conflict areas in Africa.
Good case study indeed, and reconciliation. We need a lot of that in Nigeria, don't we? Yes.
After the Nigerian Civil War, a no victor, no vanquish slogan was mounted by the then President Yakubu Gowon. But a lot of events that happened after that clearly showed that the type of reconciliation we are witnessing in Rwanda did not actually take place, despite constitutional provision of federal character to bring the country together. There's still a lot of lapses, you know, in the way we do our things here in this climate, and we need to really sit down to unify our country.
Why do you think successive Nigerian governments and some Nigerians have been afraid or shy about putting together that much needed reconciliation that we need in order to move ahead? It seems like we're still stuck in the past, the fights and disagreements of our forefathers. You know, they are being handed down from generation to generation, and it's a problem for us.
It's really very tragic. What are we really struggling for? Struggling to dominate each other? Struggling to oppress each other? It doesn't really make sense. Why we should be thinking about inventions, we'll be thinking about economic development. People are thinking about, oh, my region, my ethnic group, my religion, you know, dominating over others. So that is the type of mindset we have to do away with in this country. Looking at the Rwanda, he talked about their justice system, the Mchacha, the ambassador, I heard him talk about that. We need to reconcile at various levels. Look at the conflict in the middle belt of the country between farmers and herders. Look at other conflicts in various parts. Look at the unfortunate crisis in Okwama. All these packets of crisis are not needed. What we need is wholesale peace based on justice, equity, and prosperity, so that our country can develop, our country can move forward. Rwanda has really set a very, very good precedent for the rest of Africa.
You know, Ambassador Bazivamu talked about the high percentage of women in their parliament. I mean, Nigeria, it's less than 5%. And he also explained the unique qualities of women. He said patience, tolerance, they are listeners. Nigeria is really losing a lot by not including 50% of its population in governance, isn't it?
Yes, the Rwandans were very, very clear. After the genocide, in which about 1.1 million people died, just like after the Second World War in Europe, which made American women to take a center stage. The genocide in Rwanda opened their eyes, and they began to see that women can actually be involved in transforming their society. So that was a fallout of the aftermath of the genocide. So women are very strategic when it comes to development. Look at the case of Nigeria, for example, where a lot of women are there, itching to make their contribution to national development, but they are either isolated or shut out. Rwanda has a 30% affirmative action for women. For every parliamentary position, 30% seat is reserved for women. Those are the kind of things that we want to see, a proactive affirmative action in Nigeria, so that women can be in government. In fact, the Rwanda model is being recommended. You can't even see it in Europe. 50% of their cabinet are women. And that gives the women a lot of confidence. That may give the women a lot of prominence. And it's a very good example of gender inclusivity in Africa, in the world. Because even the Europeans, apart from Sweden, in most of the European countries, they've not been able to meet the threshold of the Rwandan gender inclusivity.
So let's quickly look at 13 countries in Africa: Rwanda, Senegal, South Africa, Namibia, Mozambique, Cabo Verde, Ethiopia, Burundi, Tanzania, Cameroon, Uganda, Angola, and South Sudan. They have between 61% and 32% of women in parliament. Nigeria is the giant of Africa, biggest population, biggest economy. We're nowhere. How difficult can this be for us? Although you can say that Rwanda is just over 13 million people.
12 million people.
Yeah, about 13 million people. Nigeria is over 200 million people. Is it so difficult for us to do the same, or even much higher?
Well,
or what can we do deliberately?
Well, the truth of the matter is that there have to be a deliberate affirmative action for women. There have to be a deliberate, the constitutional provisions have to be very, very clear, just like in Rwanda. So if we look at the Rwanda model, I recommend that even if we can start with 20% position reserved for women, it might not be up to 30%. But again, the women also have a lot of work to do. Of course, most times when we talk about women in politics, the example of Sarah Jibril, where no woman delegate was able to even vote for that candidate. So again, the women also need to stand up and contest elections and run elections and stand up to the men. To be fair to Nigeria,
but financially it's difficult for women.
Financially,
we run money politics. If you don't have the money, it's difficult.
Of course, I understand that, but that should not deter women from taking up the gauntlet. Most of the political parties allow women to take form for free as an encouragement, but that is not enough.
Right.
There have to be a proactive, deliberate, conscious effort to mainstream women, not just women, even young people, into the political system.
Dr. Omale Adoyi, yes. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for this edition of Arise Primetime. Do join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, goodbye and thank you for watching.